don't know, I suppose just enjoy watching him kill Nazis.
Gus March Phillips, I have a mission I want you to lead. Thank you, Sergeant.
What's the plan?
The mission in this movie is so important because it was about removing Nazi Germany's U-boat dominance in the Atlantic, and by U-boats I mean submarines. The war would probably have been lost had this mission not been successful. And Gus's line, whether it has still survived or not, I'm not too sure. But him saying we're giving birth to deniable operations is important because of the time. It was something that was unthought of. It's in the title, Ungentlemanly Warfare. But they weren't going to win otherwise. And that's one of the special things about people like Winston Churchill, is that he could see the wood through the trees. And it was about, I mean, I'm sure he had many failings as a man, but one thing he did right was win the war. And if he didn't, by doing things like this and forming teams like this, then we'd be living a very different life now.
So the story is really important to be told on the big screen. I think this is one of the first modern day tellings of the conception of the SOE, which is the Special Operations Executive. It's a band of men and women that Winston Churchill put together to complete, under the cover of deniability, these operations which really swayed the war for Great Britain. And so they were a really integral part of defeating the Nazis and accomplishing the goals that were set.
For me, the interest in him came from the kind of person it took to be someone like him during that period. In this day and age, it's a bit more usual, but to be one of the first people to start the team and to start the process of deniable operations took a certain type of person. And that's what's fascinating about him. I have a lot of friends who have served in those sort of units. And I feel a sense of duty to represent them properly. And while this is less of an historical documentary and more of a character piece, I wanted to put that sense of fun into these characters as well as the danger. They're extraordinary people. So
my character, Freddy the Frog, he's a frogman. So he's a waters expert, a demolitions expert. He's a cool, calm, collected young man who has a very sort of strong and concrete presence. And so when everything's sort of hitting the fan, you can trust Freddy to be, you know, the cool hand Luke of the company. And for me, it was really sort of putting my trust in Guy. It was what brought me to the character, was the fact that I know that each and every single one of those characters on screen is going to have that flair. And so I didn't see it in the initial draft, but I knew they were going to make something out of everybody. And that's what they told us, and that's exactly what's been done. So Gus and Freddy, I think they go pretty far back. I think Freddy is one of his most trusted men. Everybody on this mission is picked because of their past history with Gus, and I think they've completed missions beforehand. And so it's one of those relationships which has absolute trust. And we know when the captain says something, it'll get done, because the boys will do literally anything for Gus and trust his judgment, trust his direction, and things just get done with him. So this is my second time working with Guy Ritchie. I worked on The Gentleman. I played Dry Eye and had the most amazing time doing that process, and this trumps that just because of the circumstance and because of the cast and because of the movie. So I'm excited for everybody to see this on the big screen, because I think the characters are just going to pop out like Guy Ritchie's characters always do, and you'll have everyone rooting for them, and that's what we want to do. We're making something that's going to entertain, you know, with an amazing, unbelievable historical story to it, but with that Guy Ritchie twist.
The wonderful thing about Guy Ritchie is that he's excellent at crafting character, but you can't just be excellent at crafting character. There have to be people who can pull that off. And this team of actors is very good at pulling that off. They bring their own little piece of something to each of these roles, which make them unique and not just a carbon copy of something that Guy's trying to portray. Everyone has their challenges as a character, and everyone fills their role so wonderfully, and it's great to see. I mean, working with Hero in particular has been a real pleasure. I think he's the youngest of us by a fair margin, and there's some real talent there.
I think the relationships between all of us actually has a great sense of humor. We don't have particular sort of characters that we bag on. Often Hazy's at the butt end of certain jokes just because he's the youngest of the group, and so there's always that fun kind of humor. And Lassen is just one of those guys that you love to, I don't know, I suppose just enjoy watching him kill Nazis. Such a terrible thing to say, but not at the same time, because we do take so much joy in what Alan brings to the character, and that's just this sheer ferocity. And Lassen historically was rather unhinged, so to see that is awesome.
I love being on the water, and so the opportunity to actually be at sea again while shooting was extraordinary. I think in this day and age, one would normally expect to be on a green screen stage and at most on a gimbal, but not even that, maybe just a bit of camera movement like this. But something about being on the water, something about being off such a beautiful coastline like we have here in Turkey, it really helps sell the world and the feeling, and so you can really get in touch with it. And also it creates a wonderful bond between the cast and the crew and everyone on that particular vessel, because we're not getting to just disappear off to our various corners and our various stations, and we're on the boat all day long, come rain or shine, and it feels like a real camaraderie gets built that way. And this is such a magnificent crew. Everyone is so good at what they do, and they have such a good approach to it. It's the only other movie I've laughed so much on was Man from U.N.C.L.E., and I love being back here. Absolutely love it.
So our experiences out at sea have been amazing. You know, a lot of these films that get made these days, it's always on a green screen, it's always kind of, you know, in a studio, and they found the perfect Madonna, and they brought it, I think it was in Europe somewhere, and they brought it down to the coast of Turkey, and we've spent the past sort of 2 weeks filming on it. Being out, like, I've got fantastic sea legs. Alex doesn't have. He probably has the worst sea legs, but he was fine. He was absolutely fine. But to be out there in the ocean on a sailboat is phenomenal, and it just gives this just reality to it all, and it's just going to look phenomenal on screen.
Expect a characterful, fun ride. This is, as much as it's about a very, very serious operation and a very serious time in human history, it is actually presented in a way that is devil-may-care sort of attitude of these extraordinary individuals. I think a lot of these people may have had, because they were dancing around the edges of madness, and that's what made them special and capable for this kind of mission. And so people can expect to see unusual characters doing bombastic things.
You and your operation are reckless. Abort this mission now.
Hello, can't hear you. Please do off.
别忘了订阅我们的频道，打开小铃铛就不会错过任何精彩内容，随时上架。我们下回再见。